Hi guys, how are you doing? I am back for another reaction video. This one is by Street Hawk, and the title is "The Phone Call to TV Licensing to Cancel My License." Now, as you know, if you watch my videos on this channel, you know that I advocate for not paying license fee. I believe it's a waste of money. You shouldn't pay it, especially if you're watching catch-up services or streaming services. Anyway, this video is absolutely brilliant. I mean, it made me laugh quite a few times. It's a guy calling into TV licensing, and he more or less argues with the guy on the phone, and it's absolutely hilarious. I love this video. So let's get started.
Adam, I phoned up. I think you've got the details. If you're not, I'll repeat them. Basically, I'm just
No,
asking. Oh, so do you need my details again?
no, it's fine. Go on, please. No, just
I'm just
please continue.
requesting if you can stop sending me these letters that I feel are harassing. Because I don't think any other firm would do this and be allowed. And when I read that letter, it suggested criminal action. And it didn't really. I mean, I know people who are getting these letters and they've got mental health problems and they're not watching television, but just out of fear, they're paying for a license that they don't need. And the letters themselves don't seem very clear on. It's more about threats rather than do you really need a TV license? Because my understanding is if you're not watching TV, I mean, I don't even have a TV, live TV or so on, then you don't need a
So as the law stands, if you don't watch anything that is being broadcast or use iPlayer, you don't require a license. Also, if you've got TVs in your house, it doesn't matter because the law states that you can have as many TVs as you want in your home. It's what you use them for that really matters in this case. So to say that you need a license to have a TV is absolute bollocks.
license, but it's not particularly clear on the letter. And I've requested before, when you did this before, not to send me any more letters because I find it irritating that, first of all, that I have to phone up every few years to do this nonsense about confirming. I mean, considering nobody watches television, it's just full of rubbish from what I gather. I haven't watched television for at least 10 or so years. Like most people, just watch YouTube these days. You know, the BBC apparently, I think, gets less views than some twit with a camera recording himself eating dinner. I mean, that's how appalling the BBC has become. But I would like these letters to be stopped permanently because I just feel they're harassing and irritating. If circumstances do change, which they won't, because I have no intention to purchase a television. I mean, I just use a phone. That's all I have.
Like I said before, it doesn't matter how many TVs you got in your house. If you don't watch anything live or use iPlayer, you don't require a TV license. It's as simple as that. These letters are purposefully threatening in nature because that's how they sell licenses, by invoking fear into the British public. If they were so nice, normally, if these letters were nice in nature, no one would buy a license. So many are forced into buying a license that they don't need because the fear of having someone at their door, look at the door, and threaten nature. It's this is how they sell licenses, and they won't change their ways for anyone who calls up and says, "Oh, these are threatening nature. Could you tone them down, please?" That will never ever happen. Anyway,
I have no need for getting a television. It's pointless. So I'd like them stopped fully because unless you
I've got two TVs in this house. They both have Fire TV sticks in them. I only watch ITVX or YouTube, you know, not live stuff. But again, you can have as many TVs as you want in your home, and you don't require a license.
legal powers that no other firm has, I'm not sure.
Unfortunately, TV licensing operate under criminal legislation, not under civil legislation.
Right.
We are charged under that Act, the Communications Act, to investigate the licensing requirements of every address in the UK. We fall foul of the Data Protection Act, which states you can only hold information if it's accurate, relevant, and up to date. The only information we'll record is that someone says they're not watching TV at the address. We still have to investigate it as part of the Communications Act. So unfortunately, this isn't something we can do. We're not a civil process, we're a criminal one. And that's why it's on the letters. The letters will state it's a criminal offence if someone does this. This is how you buy a license.
To say it's a criminal offence to watch live TV is utterly ridiculous in this day and age. This is why BBC are now losing billions of pounds a year, because households are just can't be bothered. They can't bother to pay the licence fee anymore. They'd rather just watch what they want to watch and not have to pay the government licence. And it's the way it should be. But now it's not the case at all. You've got to buy a licence if you watch live TV or use iPlayer. It's ridiculous in this day and age, but that's how it is. Yeah.
Free license and help to tell us you're not watching TV, but it is operated under criminal legislation. So unfortunately, this isn't an option for TV licensing.
Just send out a standard letter. Well, why don't you just send out a letter saying, do you have a TV license or not, rather than this sort of...
Because
it looks rather...
because if an
looks like something you'd expect from some dodgy car firm that charges... Sorry.
Because if an officer turns up on the property, they read out the pay statement and it's done under PACE Act. They also use the RIP Act when using detection equipment and so on, because it's a very formal process. Unfortunately, some people aren't going to be in the same situation as you. Some people are going to be in a situation where they're found to be watching TV illegally and taken to court and prosecuted by the courts. We have to make it clear.
Now, it does happen. People do watch TV illegally, watch things live without licence. That I don't condone at all. You've got to obey the law as it currently stands. But yeah, people do watch TV illegally, if you can call it illegal, that is. But yeah, I mean, I've always done things legally, the legal route, because you have to. You can't watch TV live, you can't use iPlayer, which I have stuck by in the last 4 years of living here. But yeah, it's very sad in this day and age that we have to pay the government to watch TV in our own homes.
Is an option for people. It's one letter for everybody, which means everyone gets the same information.
Well, it also doesn't say be sensible. Well, it shouldn't also be on the letter that if somebody does turn up, they don't need to answer the door to them if that happens. I mean, it should be clear that they've got no obligation.
Unless TV licensing, for example, have a warrant.
Well, but how often does that happen?
So if you do get a goon at your door, they will need a warrant or an invite from you to come to your home. They can't just turn up and expect to come into your house. No way. As the law stands, they can only come to the house if they've got a warrant, which is very rare these days, or an invite from you to come to your home. Apart from that, they cannot do anything. If they do come to your home, just say, "No thanks, mate, close the door." They'll toddle off and find easier prey. That's how it is.
Makes it much more formal and it would be seen again, but that would make it much more problematic for people where that happens.
But surely that's
no, it's not a different circumstance. It's one circumstance for everybody, so that nobody's being treated unfairly. Again, this isn't that what we're going to choose who we want to. It's again that would be a problem for the public. We make sure it's fair and transparent of all actions.
Well, do you think it is fair for people who've learned? Well, people with have got mental health problems. It's clearly not fair on them if they're receiving these letters, and they might not even be watching television, but just simply out of fear, they're paying it. I do know somebody in that circumstance.
And if they contact us, we could discuss it with them. Can you assume that TV licensing is a thing that everybody needs a TV license, which we
always say never ever contact them, because all they'll do is try and sell you a license you don't require. The best thing you can do is to not pay any more and ignore the letters. That's what I do.
Again, the question we ask is, do you receive or record a live TV signal? Again, our staff are there to administrate the license fee, not to try to catch people out. If someone's not watching TV, we'll update our records with that.
I mean, when I first moved in here, there was a satellite dish outside. I originally cut the wires into my home because I don't want them saying, "Oh, well, you've got a dish outside, therefore you're watching TV legally. No, it's being cut off deliberately so that they don't assume I'm watching live TV illegally. People who've got dishes in the house and not paying the license fee are breaking the law because, well, there's no way to prove that, but if they're paying for Sky and they're watching live TV in their houses without license, they're breaking the law.
That's what we're there to do.
But
The
surely
assumption there is
it
that
should
TV are
be.
going to try and get people fair. We're there to administrate it. It makes it fair.
But don't you think it's down to the person themselves to contact you? It's like if I bought a gun, I presume I'd need a gun license. It'd be for me to contact the authorities that I've got a gun, rather than the police don't phone me every day to see if I've got a gun license.
Unfortunately, that's not. No. You have to have the license before you can get the gun. You need that. Again, it's that way around. So unfortunately, that isn't a valid thing. But again, I'll point out to you now that every TV, it says the actual offence is to have TV equipment installed for use under Section 363 of the Communications Act. The problem is that would include things like mobile phones, iPads, anything like that can receive a TV signal.
Yes, that is true. If you've got a phone, a smartphone, a tablet, or even a laptop, those things can broadcast live TV, but it isn't illegal to have them. You can still use those devices and not watch TV live without license. So they'll always say that if you've got a tablet, a TV, a phone, whatever it is you got in the house, that you're automatically watching TV legally. No. You've got a choice. You can either watch TV not live and not pay a license fee. But again, this company always assumes guilt. That's their go-to for everything. Oh, you got a TV, you got devices, therefore you're watching TV legally. No, not the case at all.
Enforced that way, it's enforcing if you're watching live TV. So again, it's being done on a fair and balanced method. But again, we make it simple and as open for everybody.
But Charlotte, the reality is that I would imagine these days the majority of people watch everything on YouTube, and that's not live. And your letters, I would say it's slightly deceiving in the information. It seems to, have
How's it deceiving?
Well, first of all, it's when you open it, the letter I received, it had this like big red box saying, "Oh, criminal, criminal, criminal," and there was very little information. It's a standard letter that I gather that you send out, but it's obviously people who are vulnerable will read that and presume that's personalised to them. The reality is, I presume that if I was to ignore the letter fully, there's very little that would happen, except maybe you'd send somebody out, and if I ignored them, it's not going to go anywhere, is it? You don't have...
Again, but you're assuming that everyone's in your circumstance. You're not assuming everyone could be in different circumstances.
Like I say, if you're watching TV without a license, you're not watching anything live or using an iPlayer, you're not breaking the law as far as I'm concerned. If they come to your door, they can't come in without an invite from yourself or a warrant, which is very rarely given out. So all you got to do is say no thank you, close the door, and it's done. They won't come back that day. They won't harass you. They'll go off and find easier prey. That's how they operate. They operate by receiving a commission for each fine or license they've sold. It's a very scummy way to operate, but this is how they operate, unfortunately. The letters are very threatening in nature. I've been getting them the last year or so, and I'll put them in the bin because I'm not doing anything illegal. So why should I have to pay a license that I don't need?
That's what I mean. You're presuming...
but again, you can't... No, you're assuming how we act with this. But again, everyone is different and everyone's different circumstances. Unfortunately, some people are watching TV illegally. Some people, unfortunately, against their best nature, are going to have a warrant served against them.
But that's pretty unlikely.
They're going to get the same letter. They get the same...
Wouldn't you need to have sort of...
have to have evidence.
That's what I mean. So,
evidence,
if somebody's... if you can't see the TV...
Again, they can't just want a warrant from the police. They have to actually have evidence against the person they're going into the home for. They can't just turn up out of the blue with a warrant. No. They've got to have evidence. actual tangible evidence of you watching TV illegally, which is very rarely given out these days because people they don't watch TV legally. A small number do, but to get that evidence is very hard to get, first and foremost. So I could be watching TV here, and it could be in my back garden spying on me. That wouldn't hold up in court because they've gotten that footage illegally. But see, you've got a front door that's transparent, or a front door window that's transparent to your living room, and it's they see you watching EastEnders. That license, that's fair enough. But again, it's very rarely given out these warrants in this day and age.
Which in most cases is
Right.
unless they've got the curtains open, you can walk into the garden. It's not going to be
Or we could just use the detection equipment which we use under the RIPPER Act.
what they're like TV
It's
vans.
used against search warrants.
What you mean? You've got
Again, they're used
TV
against search
vans.
warrants and they're done.
So
So the vans, they exist. We've seen them in the streets. What they've got inside is basically nout. They've got machinery in there to detect people watching TV. But if you lived in a block of flats, for example, how are they going to know which TV is watching things illegally? It just can't. It's impossible. In this day and age with the internet, people watching things off the internet, it's impossible. They'll always say, "Oh, we can always find out through other means," but no, they can't.
They're used against warrants under the RIPPER
yeah,
Act.
but so you're saying you've got equipment such as a TV van to detect TVs being on. I thought that was an old spice
Yes,
tale.
well, there's a part of legislation for it under the RIPPER Act, and it's
So
used
do
to
they
against
exist
warrants
or
which
not?
including court.
Do they exist?
Yes,
Come
they're
on.
used against warrants.
Oh, so just
Yes,
be clear,
they
you're
exist.
saying there's TV vans that can detect if somebody at a certain house, the TV's on. So when did they come in? Because in the 60s, they didn't. I mean, that was just a falsehood. So what year did they start to
Again,
develop?
they're covered under. They're covered. Sorry, they're
Yeah.
covered under. I keep on mentioning this the entire time. They're
Yeah,
covered
you're
under the
saying
RIPPER
they've
Act.
got.
Sir.
Yes, you're saying that there's a legal act, but I'm just saying, does this equipment even exist, or is it just an old wives' tale?
Yes, it's.
So when
It's
did it?
used in court to get search warrants.
So when did this equipment kick in? Because until last year, I presumed this was an old wives' tale. Because obviously, how does it?
Sir, we've been using it. Sir. That equipment's been in use for quite a long time.
So
it's been used for quite a while. Then how do they operate now? Because everyone watches on the internet. They don't watch via a cable anymore. Well, it's very rare these days that people watch Sky through a cable. Everything's done through Wi-Fi these days. So how has that machinery evolved during that time in the 70s and 80s when these so-called vans were prevalent? Again, they're just blowing smoke, I think. It is impossible to watch. Sorry, it's impossible to detect what people are watching through Wi-Fi, through the internet, because that's the way it is. You can't. There's no tangible way that you can detect what people are watching through the Wi-Fi networks. They're blowing smoke, basically. And again, they're just doing this to scare people into buying a license. It's wrong. It's really, really wrong.
Started working here, and that's 20 years.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yep. So it can detect exactly a TV being on and receiving live. So
yeah, it's enough. It's enough.
But again, if you have a tower block, how are they going to know? How are they going to detect which area that block is broadcasting TV legally? They can't. It's impossible.
It's not, like I say, you'll not be told how it works because it's covered under the RIPPER Act, but it's enough for
a criminal search
warrant to serve from a court.
Right. I mean, obviously.
They won't tell us because they're telling porkies. They won't tell us how to do this because they're talking porkies. They're talking absolute bollocks.
The moments, my understanding is it have to be plugged into the aerial, and so if somebody,
why, sir?
Well, that's what I've seen on the YouTube.
Television's digital now.
Oh, so
again, sir, but if it's covered under the RIPPER Act, how would they know how it worked?
Well, it's fascinating. So all this, all right, fair enough. I mean, if that's what you're saying, it's fascinating that the equipment can do that. I presumed. I mean, again, it's like with your mobile phone. If somebody watches it live, off a web channel, can you detect that? Because I'd have thought that'd be nearly impossible to know if somebody's watching a
Why?
live.
If you're watching TV through the internet, your Wi-Fi network, it is impossible for them to know what you're watching, and they will know that your address hasn't got a license because they've got a massive database, but they can't detect what you're watching if it's through the Wi-Fi or the internet. They can't. In the old days of the CRT TVs, fair enough, they could detect what you're watching, but now people watch things through the internet, through the Wi-Fi, streaming services, catch-up services. There's no way, there's no chance in hell that they'll know what you're watching and whether or not you're watching it legally or not. So anyway, guys, that's my reaction video to this to Street Hawk. It's a great video, I must admit. Do give this video a like. I will leave a link down below. I thought it was brilliant. Yeah. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next one.